And that's something I still use. I mean, I have many hangers in my solos, which is very bad, but I'll talk more about that later. Yeah, I really hope someone actually finds this useful or informative in any way, because this is really difficult for me to do. But so that eventually developed into, you know, like the way I play now, which would be like, you know, so all throughout this time that I was taking classical lessons with Roger, who was actually like in his mid-70s at this point, and really just a strict classical guy, although he appreciated some of what I was trying to do with jazz, he was totally unhip. Like he himself, you know, really didn't know much about jazz or how to play it. He could read it, and he could swing it a little bit, but there was like a real disconnect between us in that respect. Because I didn't have anyone who could really tell me what I needed to do, which is something that I think is almost overrated, because I've always been resistant of rules, especially in terms of jazz. However, I like them in so much as they allow you to see music in a different way than the way you're actually playing it yourself. Anyway, during this, I also find them to be pretty restrictive, and especially like in the sense of higher education, at least in the academic sense, produce cookie cutter players who all pretty much sound the same. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, and I'm not trying to say that if, you know, you're in a jazz ed program, you know, somewhere, that you're an idiot or anything. I'm not saying that at all. Anyway, so during this time I realized, because I didn't have anyone I could turn to for instruction in jazz, or anyone who could really help me lock down the concepts that I thought I needed, I listened a lot. And listening was actually the hardest thing to do, not in terms of actually sitting down with a record, but finding the record and knowing what type of record, learning the people's names, you know, from the earliest time I started playing, I didn't know the name of the style I wanted to play. I didn't even, you know, technically I wasn't proficient enough to even improvise anything that came close to what I wanted to play. I still, you know, I'm still, you know, you're always learning. But when I was about 14 and a half or 15, I got this big, stupid, one of those cheap 10-disc sets that has, you know, 4 songs per disc of just jazz from Costco. And I was listening to those one day, and I didn't really like most of what I heard on the records, because a lot of it was, you know, bop and straight ahead and a little avant-garde and, you know, stuff like that. Which wasn't what I wanted to play at all, and I knew the answer was somewhere in jazz, and it was on one of those CDs that I had a absolutely religious experience that I will never forget in my entire life. It was Earl Fatha Hines, who still remains to this day my favorite piano player of all time, favorite jazz pianist, and he was playing Old Fashioned Love, and it was a complete transformation of my adolescent mind. From then on, I was totally doomed. I've often thought, in the present day, because I remember this exact moment so vividly, and it was such a revelation for me, because it was you know, just this total sense of, I'm not crazy, this stuff actually exists, and this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I've often thought, because I've had, you know, problems with my career and stuff, career quote unquote, whether or not I deserve to have one is up to anyone's, you know, anyone's speculation or judgment. But in my darkest times, like, and I've been playing cocktail piano for a long time now. 4 years at one gig in Las Vegas is like an eternity anywhere else. You know, like when the audience is really cold, or when I don't get any tips and I feel like, I've knocked them dead, or when I play, like, for me, one of the best renditions of Skylark, which is one of my favorite moments. And no one listens, and I get really depressed. I remember that moment when I first heard Earl Fatha Hines, and I think about, if I had a time machine, would I go back and make sure I didn't ever hear that, because I know that that was the absolute deciding moment. Yeah, so anyway, if you're not familiar with Earl Fatha Hines, you should go get an Earl Fatha Hines CD. Personally, I recommend Tour de Force. It's a solo CD, but an Old-Fashioned Love, he's playing with a combo, and that's an old fucking tune. It took me 8 years before I really found out who wrote that. It was a James P. Johnson tune. I only have 4 or 5 recordings of it that I know are in existence. And he took it, Old-Fashioned Love used to be played like, I got that old-fashioned love in my heart, and there it shall always remain. My love is like the ivory vine, clinging closer all the time. Through the years, joy and tears, just the same, oh, just the same. Well, Fatha Hines took it like this, and this is a terrible impersonation, but... He burned the hell out of this tune, and if you've never heard Fatha Hines, he's crazy. He just packs as many notes into his solos, and has just this incredible technique in both his right and left hand. Because he started as a trumpet player. He played with Louis Armstrong, actually. They did a great recording called Weatherbird Rag. But anyway, history lesson aside, Earl Fatha Hines is who I've always wanted to sound like, wanted to play like, wanted to be able to play on that level. And so because of that, for better or worse, and probably to my detriment, I try to pack in as many notes as I can, which leaves me afraid of space, which is why my YouTube recordings are somewhat disappointing to me on one level. I think they're very good examples of how I play, but they're also incredibly busy, and there's some tempo issues. Because I have a hard time laying back. When I was playing bop, I played straight ahead bebop and combos for about 6 years, and that was incredibly instructive because I learned how to comp, and I learned how to lay out, and I learned how to be more patient, and learned how to pick my shots in my solos. That changed my way of playing a lot, and sometimes I can still turn that on in the middle of a solo. It's also useful when I start to lose control, because then I can just calm down. Like, I could show you some examples of my YouTube recordings. I'll think of some and put them at the end of this.